Here it is. Marvel Legendary Black Widow is finally here. The 30th expansion in the Marvel Legendary series. Kind of incredible that there are that many. And by the way, the first thing that I and probably you notice when looking at this is the striking box art. Very different than box art we've seen before from Legendary. We have a full image of Black Widow right there with Taskmaster reflected on her arm. That is so cool. So let's open this up, find out what's inside, go over the rule sheet and all the mechanics this set has to offer, and then we'll do a complete overview of every single card in this set. All right, here we go. So yeah, like I said, the box art is very unique for Marvel Legendary. A lot of times it features a bunch of different characters on it. This one is just Natasha or Natalia, depending on where you're looking at at her character from. But all right, there it is. Opening it up. This is a small box, 100 cards, just like Black Panther before it and several others. And there we are. There is the rule sheet we'll go over in a second. And here are our two stacks of cards. Let's go ahead and see what is on the top of each one. All right, looks like this is the Trained Black Widows in the Red Room. This is the one that there's a promo for that Upper Deck is giving out on their website when you order from them. You can check the link in the description on how to order directly from Upper Deck. Okay, let's go ahead and get this open and see what's in this part of the cards. So here's our 4 schemes. There's Mastermind number 2, Indestructible Man. We've seen that in previews and from Upper Deck on their stream. There's Taskmaster. I cannot wait to try both of these Masterminds. And here is our first villain group, Elite Assassins. The art is great on this. And then Jack-O-Lantern, Taskmaster's Thunderbolts. I love the art on Jack-O-Lantern specifically. Great to see Bullseye back again. And here's the Falcon and the Winter Soldier divided hero set. They're both on all the cards. Then we've got White Tiger, another new addition to Legendary. All right, let's see who's in this second pack of cards. Well, I know who's in the second pack, but it's always great to see the cards in person. It really changes everything to see them in person, to hold the cards, to feel them. You know, that's why I like physical games like this. Here's more White Tiger, and then there's Red Guardian, who goes undercover and unleashes from undercover a lot. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There's Yelena Belova. And finally, it's Natasha herself, Black Widow. And there we go. That is it for the cards in this set. Let's take a look at the back of the box, by the way, since we've seen the cards here. We've got Legendary Black Widow on the side. I love the way these Legendary boxes do the sides of the boxes as well. And nothing else inside. And here we go. Here's the back. Looks like we have Black Widow, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Taskmaster, and Yelena on the back. Orphaned as a child, the dark past of Natasha Romanoff has held secrets to her gifted nature. Ruthless in deadly skills, combat, and marksmanship, she is now fighting against the evil that once captured her innocence. Black Widow joins other heroes to thwart masterminds like Taskmaster and strike fear into the hearts of her enemies. Sometimes the darkness hides a protector. Follow along with your fan-favorite heroes with this Legendary Black Widow deck-building gaming expansion. It includes 100 playable cards, 5 heroes, 2 new masterminds and villain groups, and the rule sheet. And you do need the core set, of course, and all the other relevant information is back here. Let's actually go over the rule sheet right now. So let's get these guys out of the way. Well, again, we're going to follow up with a complete overview of all the cards. If you want to jump right to that overview, you can check the link in the description, or the timestamp in the description for that. I'll be showing you some video of the specific mechanics as we go, so follow along. Natasha Romanoff, the Avenger known as the Black Widow, is ironically the most famous secret agent in the world. Using disguise, spycraft, and the face-changing photostatic veil, she goes undercover to blend into evil conspiracies and infiltrate secure layers. At the crucial moment, she unveils her true identity to destroy global threats, but the dark secrets of her past are finally catching up with her. The Russian Red Room that trained and brainwashed so many women in the Black Widow program also produced another brilliant agent, Yelena Belova. At times, allies, rivals, or bitter enemies, Natasha and Yelena have each executed critical missions as S.H.I.E.L.D. agents with top secret clearance. Then we got Avengers. The Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, was also trained in Russia as a deadly operative and assassin before breaking from his conditioning to rejoin the Avengers. The Falcon, Sam Wilson, makes a reluctant alliance with the Winter Soldier to preserve the ideals of their mutual mentor, Captain America, while blazing their own trail through a new world. The Red Guardian, Alexei Shostakov, also rose in Captain America's long shadow with a complex history with Natasha. Empowered with a variant super soldier serum and wielding a Russian-made shield, he faked his own death to go undercover until the perfect moment. Then we've got some Marvel Knights as well, with White Tiger, The White Tiger, Angela del Toro, fights alongside them, an array of shadowed heroes with dark histories. Together they work to take down the Red Room Taskmaster and the mysterious Indestructible Man to redeem themselves for the unthinkable sins of the past. Let's go over some of these keywords and mechanics. Undercover. This keyword represents the Black Widows and their contacts going off the grid on special missions to recover valuable intel. Some things say things like, you may send one of your other heroes undercover. This means put that hero into your victory pile, it's worth 1 victory point. This can help you get your starting S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and troopers out of your deck so that you can draw your more powerful heroes more often. If you play a card that sends itself undercover, you still get to use its recruit, attack, and other abilities. As S.H.I.E.L.D. heroes, Black Widow and Yelena Belova work especially well with the undercover S.H.I.E.L.D. heroes in the legendary S.H.I.E.L.D. set. Unleash from undercover. At the perfect moment, Black Widows shed their disguised identities, reveal themselves, and strike. To represent this, heroes use the new Unleash keyword. When an effect says to unleash a hero from undercover, return that hero from your victory pile to your hand. If you have several cards undercover with a trigger like, when you fight a villain, you may unleash this card from undercover, fighting one villain is enough to unleash any number of those cards. When you unleash a hero back to your hand, you can play that hero on that same turn as normal. At the end of your turn, it will go to your discard pile as normal. It doesn't return to your victory pile unless an effect tells the card to go undercover again. If you unleash cards based on fighting villains or the Mastermind, you can do the unleash effects and or fight effects from that enemy in any order. When recruited, send this undercover. Red Guardian works as a sleeper agent until the right time to reveal himself. To represent this, all of his cards say, when recruited, send this undercover. When recruited abilities also appear in Legendary Realm of Kings and Messiah Complex. When recruited means do this ability when you recruit this hero. In this case, you pay the hero's normal recruit cost, put it in your victory pile worth 1 VP, and refill that HQ space with a card from the hero deck. Other abilities unleash the card at the right time. If you recruit a hero with multiple effects telling you to put it in different places like Wall Crawl, Soaring Flight, when recruited send this undercover, etc., you choose which one applies. Dodge. I'm loving that this was returning. The Black Widows, White Tiger, and Falcon are famous for their agility and evasion. To represent this, they use the dodge keyword, which also appeared in legendary villains. Dodge means, during your turn, you may discard this card from your hand to draw another card. When you dodge a card from your hand, ignore all the other text on that card unless it specifically mentions dodging. You didn't play the dodged card, so its hero, class, or color don't help you trigger the superpower abilities of other cards you play that turn. Many dodged cards have effects that can be especially strong or weak in different situations. That way you can play them when they're strong and dodge them away when they're weak. Dodge also helps you sculpt your hand towards recruit points or attack as you see fit. Dark Memories. Natasha Romanoff, White Tiger, and the Winter Soldier have each done some horrible things in their past before breaking from their conditioning. Now they are spending the rest of their lives working to redeem themselves, drawing determination from the memories of the past. Meanwhile, their enemies seek to dredge up these past misdeeds and use them against the heroes. This is represented with the Dark Memories keyword, which appeared previously in Legendary Revelations. On a hero card, Dark Memories means you get +1 attack for each hero class among cards in your discard pile. Likewise, on a villain it means this gets +1 for each hero class among cards in your discard pile. The hero classes are Strength, Instinct, Covert, Tech, and Ranged, which are green, yellow, red, black, and blue respectively for colors. So Dark Memories can give anywhere from +0 attack to +5 attack. Gray cards like S.H.I.E.L.D. agents don't have a hero class. It doesn't matter how many cards of a particular hero class you have in your discard pile. So if your discard pile were 3 strength cards, 4 instinct cards, and 5 gray S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, Dark Memories would give +2 attack. Recruiting heroes and using discard abilities at the right time can help you increase the Dark Memories bonus. Likewise, if you draw or reveal enough cards that you have to shuffle your discard pile to make a new deck, then you won't have a discard pile anymore, and the Dark Memories bonus on villains will go back to +0 attack. Time your plays and build your deck carefully to turn Dark Memories to your advantage. In this set, you can use dodge abilities at the right times to put additional hero classes into your discard pile and power up your Dark Memories, or potentially force a deck reshuffle that will reset villains' Dark Memories to +0 attack. Divided cards. Falcon and the Winter Soldier work together as grudging partners, but with very different methods. To show this, they are combined into a single hero with divided cards. Each divided card has 2 miniature cards printed on the same card. If a divided card costs 3 on each side, its cost is 3. Pay 3 recruit to recruit it from the HQ, not 6 recruit. When you play a divided card, you choose which side to play. You generate all the recruit, attack, and other abilities of that side as normal. You ignore the other side as if it didn't exist. While a divided card is in your hand, deck, the HQ, or anywhere else besides being played, it counts as all of its hero classes, teams, hero names, card names, icons, etc. So one divided card in your discard pile could potentially power up Dark Memories by +2 attack, since it has 2 hero classes. It still counts as 1 card though, not 2 cards, so you can't discard a single divided card for an effect that says to discard 2 cards. When it's not being played, a divided card's printed attack is the total attack of both numbers printed on it. You can dodge with a divided card if either side has dodge. Related characters in other sets. You can find another playable version of Falcon in Legendary Civil War, and Falcon as Captain America, as well as the Winter Soldier in Legendary Captain America 75th Anniversary. Game contents, rules insert, and 100 cards. 5 new heroes of 14 cards each. Each hero has 1 rare, 3 uncommons, 5 of one common, and 5 of another common. 2 new villain groups of 8 cards each. 2 new double-sided epic masterminds. Each has 1 mastermind card and 4 mastermind tactic cards, and 4 new schemes. Credits: Game design and card set design Devin Lowe, brand manager Travis Ray, associate brand manager Lindsay Kolick, director of game development Bubby Johansson, product manager Rob Ford, graphic design Krista Timberlake, art acquisition lead Samantha Padilla, art direction Julio Elizondo, box art Ashley Witter, card art Francine Delgado and Luisa Russo, project managers Scott Asti and Susan Dent, Director of Creative Services Mike Eggleston, VP of Production and Logistics Suzanne Lombardi, President Upper Deck Company Jason Mashara, and playtesters Greg Aguilar, JR Bontrager, Emily Cross, Alicia Forsberg, Kyle Forsberg, Michael Green, Corey Hayes, Steve Helling, Eric Persons, Josh Roberts, Aaron Serwa, Jason Walker, and Alex Wigger. Alright, with that, let's go ahead and check out every single card in this set, starting with the Masterminds first. Let's start with the enemies, in particular, the first Mastermind in the Black Widow expansion, Taskmaster. Taskmaster's got 5+ attack and a VP value of 6. Henchmen get +1 attack for each Henchman training stacked here. During your turn, Taskmaster gets plus attack equal to the highest cost hero you played this turn. Master Strike, stack this strike next to Taskmaster as Henchman training. If there are any henchmen in the city, each player gains a wound. So Taskmaster has a couple of main attributes, the first one being he's a mimic. He can mimic abilities. As soon as he sees them, he can replicate them perfectly, as you can see in the background there on the screen. That is represented in his gaining attack for the highest cost hero you played. That's an effect that has returned from his villain card in Deadpool, which is fun. The second thing is, during Civil War and other events, he's trained other characters, good or bad. He's been hired to train them, and that's what happens with his set. He makes the henchmen that you're using more powerful, and his tactics will also bring them back into the game. A very unique mastermind that will really enhance all the disparate henchmen that you've collected over the course of your legendary career. So depending on the henchmen you use, it can really change things up. Use a core henchman like Sentinels or Hand Ninjas. It'll make it a bit more of a challenge, but if you want an almost impossible challenge, use a henchman that ramps like Mandroid or especially the Brood. And oh boy, I don't want to know how that game goes for you, but the versatility of all the henchmen combined with Taskmaster is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at his epic side though. He gets a little tougher. So Epic Taskmaster has the same base attack, but he gives +2 attack for each henchman training stacked here instead of +1. So henchmen can get really, really powerful, up to +10 attack for 5 Master Strikes played. So henchmen are usually 3 attacks, so they can go up to 13 attack or more, depending on the henchman you are using, which really shows how they've been trained. And again, he does put them back into the city, as you'll see, which makes them even more formidable. And then he also gets plus attack equal to double the highest cost hero you played this turn. So playing 8 cost rare, he gets plus 16 attack that turn, so he's going to be at 21 attack when you play it, making him tougher to take down because the better cards you play, just like the other side, the tougher he gets, but big time over here. And then his Master Strike is exactly the same. You stack the strike next to the henchman training. If there's any henchmen in the city, each player gains a wound. So obviously there's no henchmen that come in this set because it's a small box, but there's a ton. There's only over 30 different henchmen from the different expansions and base sets. So try different combos and let me know which ones you liked the best. I particularly want to try him with the henchman from Into the Cosmos because combining shards and his buffs could be very interesting. But let's take a look at his 4 tactics. First up, Henchman Instructor. Fight. Choose a henchman from any player's victory pile to enter the city. You'll see all 4 of his tactics have that effect, but then they have a unique portion. Then each other player discards a card for each henchman in the city and or escape pile. Tactic 2 is Photographic Reflexes, has the same starting effect, but also play a copy of a hero in the HQ that costs 6 or less, representing Taskmaster actually using his Photographic Reflexes and mimicking a hero's abilities. Nice to see that thrown into his set on this tactic as he focuses on training henchmen for the majority of his Mastermind cards. Next up is S.H.I.E.L.D. Initiative Trainer with the unique effect KO any number of your S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and or troopers, gain that many S.H.I.E.L.D. officers. There's not a lot of cards in Legendary that KO a ton of agents and troopers. Destroyer comes to mind from Enemies of Asgard, and this one does that, but he promotes them all. So imagine you have 5 agents in your hand or in play, you can KO them all and replace them with officers, which is pretty cool because that's going to help you recruit stuff early. Hopefully for you, this is the first tactic of his that you hit. And finally, Teacher and Assassin. That sums him up pretty well. And of course, he also has the fight effect, choose a henchman from any player's victory pile to enter the city. Again, they've all got that. Each other player reveals their hand and puts one of their non-gray heroes on the bottom of the hero deck. That's pretty interesting, because usually cards will KO non-gray heroes, but this doesn't ramp up the heroes in the KO pile for schemes that care. It just tucks it under the hero deck, maybe bringing it back for training or doing something more nefarious, depending on how you interpret it. But that is it for Taskmaster's tactics, which is very hard to say. Let's go ahead and look at his villain group, Taskmaster's Thunderbolts. First up is Jester. He has an attack of 2 and a VP value of 2. One of the villains in Legendary with the weakest attack, but there's a reason. Ambush. Jester captures a bystander. Fight. Reveal the top 4 cards of the villain deck. Play all the henchmen you find, put the rest back in any order. Now, luckily, when I played this, I only triggered maybe 1 henchman out of the 4, but depending on the scheme, you might have 2 henchmen in there, and depending on how thin your deck is and what your shuffle's been like, this could reveal up to 4 henchmen and play them all into the city, which could be devastating. So he works off a Taskmaster and his henchman strategy. Be careful when you fight Jester. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get some top of villain deck knowledge, but most cases, you're just going to have to give it your best guess. And I'll mention, by the way, that there are 2 cards of each Taskmaster's Thunderbolts villain. Joystick is next. She has a 3 attack and a VP value of 2. Ambush. Choose a henchman from any player's victory pile to enter the city. Get in her way and you'll be the one getting played. So not only does Taskmaster put henchmen back into the city from victory piles, Joystick does this too. So Jester's going to play extra ones, Taskmaster puts them in. A lot of henchmen entering and re-entering the city. And again, if you have one of those ramping henchmen, not that bad with the Mandroids, because once they leave the victory pile, they get weaker. However, Brood is going to be, oh boy, Brood's probably the worst one to fight with a Taskmaster, but any henchman coming back into the city takes some VP away from you. The good thing is, if you have a setup with not a lot of KO power, or you want more effects from the henchmen, every time they enter the city, that is another opportunity for you to get their fight effect. So let's say you're fighting the hand ninjas, and you just want all that extra recruit, that works out. But think of Sentinels from the core set, for example. You'll get a lot more KO power if they keep coming in and you keep fighting them. You could really thin your deck that way, so take advantage of what they're doing to you. Jack-O-Lantern is up next. 4 attack and a VP value of 2. Fight. Choose a henchman from any player's victory pile to enter the city. Escape. Each player with fewer than 2 henchmen in their victory pile gains a wound. Even more bringing henchmen into the city. By the way, I absolutely love this art. I'm a sucker for any art that has flames going anywhere, and he's a giant flaming pumpkin head, so how can you not like that? His escape effect, hopefully you can avoid that, but again, let's say you play Jester, you fight Jester with Jack-O-Lantern in the city, it could push 3-4 henchmen into the city and knock him out, and then, of course, you may, if that many henchmen are still in the villain deck, it might be unlikely you have enough to avoid the wound, but and you might notice something about this villain group. I'll tell you after the last one, and there's a reason for it. But I love this card. And here we have Bullseye with his 4th villain appearance in Legendary. He's appeared in the Streets of New York from Dark City, CSA Special Marshals from Civil War, and Dark Avengers from Revelation. This is his 4th appearance, and he's referencing some of those cards with the fact that he focuses on recruit or attack symbols. He's also got an ally set or a hero set in the Villains expansion, which also plays on that. Let's go ahead and see what he does. 4+ attack and a VP value of 3. Ambush. Choose recruit or attack. Then reveal the top card of the hero deck. If it has that icon, Bullseye captures it and gets plus attack equal to that hero's cost. Fight. The player of your choice gains the captured hero and escape KO that hero. Now about this set, each hero in this set has 2 commons as normal, and one of those commons has a recruit symbol, and one of them has attack symbols. In Falcon and the Winter Soldier's case, the second card has 2 attack, the first one has 1 recruit and 1 attack symbol, that is. So, but all the uncommons and rares in this set only have attack symbols. So when playing with this set, you almost always want to pick the recruit symbol, and if you do that, Bullseye is going to fail more often than not capture anything, unless you want him to capture something, in which case you might want to pick attack. If you have the attack to fight him, it's another way to gain a hero. And I do appreciate how when you fight him, the player of your choice gains the captured hero, so you're not stuck to gaining it on your own if it's on a hero that you want. But escape effect is not too bad, except it's going to ramp up that KO'd non-gray hero, so if he does escape as 2 non-gray heroes KO'd, 1 for the escape and 1 for the one that he had captured. That's it for Taskmaster's Thunderbolts. Now let's move on to one of the more unique masterminds in Legendary, based on how you have to fight him. We had Ego the Living Planet in Marvel Studios' Guardians of the Galaxy. You have to destroy the entire city to win, which is very unique, and this kind of feels tangential to that in the way you have to fight him. So let's take a look at Indestructible Man. So Indestructible Man is Damon Dran, a wealthy businessman who got exposed to a power source that a company was developing, and he became Indestructible Man. He got superhuman durability and basically immortality, as he can't age naturally. He's implanted himself with a bunch of armor, and he's one of Black Widow's major foes in the comics. And so that is reflected in this set based on how you have to fight him. So check it out. He has no permanent attack. He has a asterisk there, worth 6 VP. How do you fight him? You can't use attack to fight Indestructible Man. Once during each of your turns, you may shuffle 2 elite assassins from your victory pile into the villain deck. If you do, fight Indestructible Man. Always leads elite assassins. Master Strike, shuffle an elite assassin from your victory pile into the villain deck. If you can't, each player gains a wound. So not only do you have to wait for the elite assassins to come out of the villain deck, you have to defeat them, get them in your victory pile, not the other players, and then once you do, you can shuffle 2 of them back in to fight him. When I was playing against him, it was tricky because I'm just waiting, because if I had enough attack to fight a regular mastermind, I couldn't do anything except let the game go by and wait for 2 elite assassins to come out, and that is very tricky with a timer scheme, or a scheme where you lose after a certain number of twists no matter what, because you're just kind of playing a waiting game, and the twist may come out before the elite assassins do. So any tricks you have to speed up the villain deck, like using Danger Sense to move a villain up, keep in mind that when you do fight him, and you do get to shuffle in those villains, so if you have something troubling coming up on the top of your villain deck, you might want to wait to shuffle those back in until that's getting close. Then you can do so, rearrange your villain deck, and then you can fight him. Now, even though you shuffle villains back into the villain deck, his tactics will play more cards from the villain deck, so you're not exactly extending the game too much. A little bit on his epic side. Let's go ahead and take a look at how his epic side is even stronger than this. So epic Indestructible Man is exactly the same, except once during each of your turns, you may shuffle 3 elite assassins from your victory pile to the villain deck if you do fight Indestructible Man. So you need 3 villains instead of 2 to shuffle into the villain deck, which is tricky. There's only 8 in the entire villain deck. There's also one more difference. The Master Strike is each player shuffles an elite assassin from the victory pile into the villain deck. Each player that can't gains a wound. So this affects each player instead of just the player that is currently active. One thing to note about Indestructible Man, if you play Advanced Solo, oftentimes you'll replace the Always Leads villain group with another villain group. Now, this can actually give you impossible setups. For example, if you use a villain group like Manhattan, where all the villains are gainable as heroes, so because you gain them as heroes when you fight them, they can never end up in your victory pile, which means you can never shuffle them back in to fight Indestructible Man. So keep that in mind when building your setups. If you get an impossible setup, probably best to just avoid that. Like with the notorious Galactus' Fragmented Realities, just don't play that. So don't pick a villain group that will do that, because then it's impossible. What's the fun in that? So keep that in mind. But he's a very unique mastermind and presents some very frustrating scheme and mastermind combinations, but let's take a look at what his tactics do. Alright, Tactic 1, International Arms Dealer. Fight. Gain a tech hero from the HQ. Each other player reveals a tech hero or gains a wound. If this is not the last tactic, play 2 cards in the villain deck. Like I mentioned, each one of his tactics has that text on the bottom where it will play 2 cards in the villain deck. What's fun is if you use the Final Blow variant, which I use for every game, where you have to fight the Mastermind one final time after getting all his tactics. The very last tactic will not play 2 cards, but you still are in the game. So while you might get something good, this will affect the other players negatively. Hopefully they have some tech heroes to reveal, otherwise you're going to start building up some wounds. Speaking of wounds, this Mastermind and villain group give out wounds quite often, so be aware of that. Tactic 2 probably has the best alliteration of any card in Legendary, Manipulate Murderous Mad Monk. This is his only tactic with an attack value, here's why. Fight. If this is not the last tactic, rescue 4 bystanders, and this tactic enters the city as a Molot Boga villain, whose abilities are Ambush, play 2 cards from the villain deck, Fight, KO one of your heroes, Escape, shuffle this back into Indestructible Man's Mastermind tactics. Seeing as how he's such a hard Mastermind to fight, because he depends on villains coming out and you defeating them with the correct player, you do not want this tactic going back in. At least you have a chance to avoid it. But he'll come in as an ambush. We'll play 2 cards in the villain deck. If there's 2 villains, he's already going to be on the rooftops if there was nobody else there. So if he comes into the sewers, then ambushes, and ends up playing 2 villains from the villain deck, he's going to already be on the rooftop. So he's going to be very close to escaping. So make sure that taking him out here is a priority. Good thing is, again, if he's in the city, he is a villain, so any card that affects villains you can use on this. You do not want that extra tactic going back in. Not just because he's tougher to fight, but if you fight him again, he's going to play extra cards in the villain deck, speeding up the game. Now, there's a plus to playing extra cards in the villain deck. Downside, of course, is if you're playing a timer scheme, but since he does play so many extra cards, that is a higher chance that the elite assassins will appear in the city, giving you more of a chance to take him out. So it all depends on what comes up first. Hopefully for you, you're not on a timer scheme, because that is rough. Secrets of Indestructibility. Fight. KO up to 2 wounds from your hand and or discard pile, and then it has the same text as the rest. This is a nice one. He's given you so many wounds throughout the game, and by fighting him and his villain group, you've learned how to become a little indestructible on your own, so you can get rid of some of your wounds. Pretty good. And finally, Unveil Project 4, which is the project that gave him his abilities. Fight. Each other player reveals their hand and discards each card with a 4 printed anywhere on it. The copyright date line doesn't count. And then, of course, if this is not the last tactic, play 2 cards from the villain deck. So this is an interesting one. So like it says, you don't count the copyright date line. You count everything else that has a 4 printed on it that could be in the card text. And also this, by the way, this counts every single card with a Fantastic Four team affiliation, because that is a 4 printed on the card. So keep that in mind if you're trying to fight Unveil Project 4 with the Fantastic Four. They might lose their entire hand, which is not the best. This tactic is a little gimmicky, but I absolutely love that about it. Let's check out Indestructible Man's always leads villain group, Elite Assassins, which is very important due to the way you have to fight him to win. So let's check out how easy they are to defeat. So the Elite Assassins focus on Dark Memories, and again, Dark Memories means these villains will get +1 for each different class of hero in your discard pile. All these villains, just like Taskmaster's Thunderbolts, have 2 cards for each different villain. So Blue Talon has 3+ attack, 2 VP, Dark Memories, Ambush. Each player reveals a ranged hero or gains a wound. Fight. You may send a hero from your discard pile, Undercover. So helpful if you're not using the Black Widow heroes to send maybe some Greys Undercover from your discard pile. However, this will work well with heroes like Red Guardian. You can send them Undercover and unleash them later once again, but that is up to you. But Blue Talon not only can be an easy, unfortunate early appearance because he'll give you a wound if you just have Greys. But again, remember, these villains are going to get shuffled back into the deck, so you're going to see these multiple times. So they're not the toughest villains to defeat, but again, every time he shows up, the ambush effect is going to happen. So if you can get a range hero, you're going to want it because you'll see Blue Talon 3, 4, 5 times, and that's a lot of wounds. Another villain, you'll see a lot of Iron Maiden. She's got 4+ attack, VP value of 2, Dark Memories, Ambush. Each player must send one of their non-gray heroes Undercover. Fight. Each player may unleash one of their heroes from Undercover. So good news, bad news in this one. Again, you're going to see this a lot because they do go back to the villain deck. So her ambush effect is going to be rough because let's say you only have 1 non-gray in your hand. You're going to have to send it Undercover. It could be a rare on worst case scenario. You can unleash it later if you fight her, but if you don't do that and she escapes, and you, speaking of escapes, by the way, I didn't mention this. In this villain group, if a villain escapes, then you can't shuffle it back to the villain deck because you need 2 or 3 villains to put back into the villain deck when you fight Indestructible Man. If you let too many escape, you've basically lost the game. There is no way to win. On his epic side, you need to shuffle in 3, so if you let 6 of them escape, that is it. But the more you let escape, the harder it's going to be to win because that's a smaller pool of Elite Assassins in the villain deck. So again, this one, you also don't want it to escape, because if you do, you can't unleash those heroes from Undercover unless you have the other Iron Maiden cards show up. But you might also have some non-grays you don't care about losing, maybe some special sidekicks, you can send them Undercover, and hey, more VP for you. Snapdragon is next with 4 attack and a VP value of 2, yet another ambush effect. Each player discards a non-gray hero, then each player draws a card. This is basically a waking nightmare. Fight, you may send one of your heroes Undercover. Now, she's nice enough to give you the option to send one Undercover when you fight her, and again, she's going to show up a lot, so you'll be able to send things Undercover. Not exactly a KO, but you still can thin your deck a little bit this way. But as you can see, all these villains have ambush effects, and as they're going to keep coming back into the city, you're going to keep having to deal with these. At least it's just a non-gray hero and a card draw, so it won't really hurt you. This is probably the least negative of all the ambush effects. By the way, if both sides don't have any non-gray heroes to discard, you still draw a card. These are 2 different effects and 2 different sentences. That happened to me early, so she showed up maybe on turn 2. Neither player could discard a non-gray hero, so each player just got to draw a card, which is pretty helpful. And last but not least, Black Lotus, 6 attack, 3 VP, ambush. Each player discards a card that costs 0. Fight, you get +3 recruit. So hopefully, I guess hopefully in quotes, you have enough wounds so that when she ambushes you, you can discard a wound, because wounds don't have a printed cost, which effectively makes that 0. She's the one that's going to provide the biggest obstacle with fighting the Mastermind, because she has the most attack. If she shows up early and you can't hit her for a while, you can't get those villains in your victory pile, and you can't shuffle them back into your villain deck. But as you noticed, every single villain here has an ambush effect, so they're all going to affect you multiple times. Getting the +3 attack, though, is good for an early game, so if you see her in the city, what you probably want to do is build up a lot of attack. Don't focus on getting an officer or anything. And then when you fight her, use that extra recruit with maybe a few S.H.I.E.L.D. agents you have to get something better from the HQ. And you'll be able to take advantage of that quite a bit. So one thing to notice about both of these villain groups is that they are not the strongest villains. They're not worth the most VP. In fact, each villain group is worth 18 victory points total. Each one has a 2, 2, 2, and 3 VP card. But that's because they get enhanced by other stuff that's going on. Taskmaster's Thunderbolts will bring extra henchmen into the city, and if Taskmaster's leading them, it's going to buff up the henchmen themselves so that villains don't have to be as strong on their own. And then the elite assassins are designed to be fought semi-easily, but they come back, right? Because you can't fight the Mastermind if you don't do that. If you're fighting the elite assassins without Indestructible Man, they become a little easier because you don't have to put them back into the city, but that's how they're designed. They're not super beefy villains like Heralds of Galactus, but they don't have to be. So all things considered, I think Taskmaster's Thunderbolts are going to be a bit tougher in a randomized scenario, but they're great on their own. And with the Masterminds, forget about it. All right, that's it for the enemies, the Masterminds and villains in this set. Let's go ahead and take a look at the heroes in Marvel Legendary Black Widow, starting with the titular character herself. And here she is, Black Widow, with her second hero set in Legendary after the first set in the core set. She is a S.H.I.E.L.D. affiliated hero. This card is Evasive Acrobatics, her first common, an instant card, recruit of 2, and a cost of 3. She's got dodge, and then when you dodge with or play this card, you may also dodge with another card from your hand. She's laser focused. This is a very good card. I found myself using this card in every single game I played. It was a really easy pickup. Gives you to recruit like a S.H.I.E.L.D. officer. In fact, has the same cost as a S.H.I.E.L.D. officer. But just like cards that let you draw, dodge cards are a pretty easy recruit because they won't get in your way of your strategy, because you can always discard them to draw something else. Not only that, but what's great about Evasive Acrobatics is it can get another card from your hand out of the way. And thanks to Travel Size, who told me during the stream, you can use this on wounds, which is totally true. If you have a wound in your hand, maybe gotten by one of the elite assassins or from Indestructible Man, you can discard or play Black Widow and then dodge that wound away and draw something else. This is also very helpful with Dark Memories. If you need just one more hero class in the discard pile for Dark Memories, actually you can get 2. If you dodge Evasive Acrobatics and you discard another card, it could be a divided card that gives you 3 classes and draw something else, suddenly you've buffed up Dark Memories by 2 or 3 attack per card that has Dark Memory. So a fantastic utility card. Absolutely pick this up if it comes up during your game. Won't really hurt you in any way, it'll just help. Next up, we have her second common, Widow's Bite. It is a tech card, 1+ attack, and a cost of 4. This became one of my favorite cards in the entire expansion, so check this out. She's got dodge and Dark Memories. That is a great combination. Those expecting her defenseless find themselves shocked. So here's why this is such an amazing combination. So let's say you don't have any non-grays in your discard pile. This is just a 1 attack card, so a glorified Shield Trooper. You can just dodge her out of the way. But if you have enough classes in your discard pile, suddenly she becomes 2, 3, 4, or 5, or 6 total attack, which is a lot of attack for a common. If you have all 5 classes in your discard pile and have built up a great Dark Memories deck, each one of these Widow's Bites you play is 6 attack, which is, again, just crazy for a common. And then if it's not that, you can just dodge it. So yes, another easy pickup. Works great with her other common because you could, again, do that strategy I mentioned earlier to dodge her and get 1, 2, or 3 classes in the discard pile. And if you do that, suddenly this is 4 attack. And again, it's got dodge, so it does not hurt you to pick up. And the art is she's burst from the window trying to escape from somewhere. Not quite sure what's happening there, but I love the action shot. And yes, one of my favorite cards from the entire expansion right here. Next up, we have Black Widow's uncommon Weave a Web of Spies, not to be confused with the scheme from Paint the Town Red. This is a covert card, 2 attack, and a cost of 5. Again, dodge. If you drew any cards this turn, you may send one of your other heroes undercover. So drawing cards includes dodge, includes Waking Nightmares or the effect from one of these villains, and sending one of your other heroes undercover could be a gray hero you want to get rid of, or another hero from the set that you want to unleash later. So on the surface, this doesn't seem too strong because, again, 2 attack for an uncommon is not that much, but you do have something similar to KO power here, and you can get rid of cards from your deck. And then, of course, it has dodge, so if you don't want this, you can just dodge it away, and if you do, it'll give you yet another class for Dark Memory. So far, you've got Instinct, Tech, and then Covert. That is 3 classes, so dodge this, dodge something else, and dodge Weave a Web, and that's 3 classes in your discard pile right there. And finally, Infiltrate the Conspiracy is her rare, a ranged card with 4+ attack and a cost of 7. You may send one of your heroes undercover. You get +3 attack if you have at least 4 bystanders and or undercover heroes in your victory pile. So off the heels of something like Digest and Savior gives you a bonus if you have a certain number of cards in your victory pile. This is pretty simple to get. There's going to be chances to get bystanders in most every setup, plus she can send heroes undercover with her uncommon, and then you'll get 7 attack from this card. This is the only card from her set that doesn't actually have dodge on it, but you don't need it because it's a rare that's going to give you 4 or 7 attack, and you can send another hero undercover. Black Widow is a great hero set for thinning your deck. She's got this undercover, that undercover. She can dodge stuff to get cards moving, and then you can send heroes undercover after that. And again, it's yet another hero class for Dark Memories. You'll see that a lot in this expansion. The heroes have a lot of different classes, most of them anyway, to give you that Dark Memories bonus. And this has got to be one of my favorite pieces of art in this expansion because the action is great. The perspective, she's dodging the attackers. They're shooting at her right on the left. And I've always said we don't have enough motorcycles in Legendary, so here's another one right there. Now, like some other rare cards, it's going to be hard to catch at first that this card is a ranged card because the background is kind of dark like a tech card, but this is ranged, so just make sure you pay attention to the symbols. I'll make sure to do my best to remember. Overall, I really enjoy Black Widow's hero set. She's going to be a great inclusion for any randomized game. You can throw her into any setup, and she's going to be a great utility. And again, most of her cards dodge, so you can just get them out of the way. Never going to hurt you to pick one of these up, and if she's going to help no matter what. She's got deck thinning, she's got a ramp with Dark Memories, a very solid hero set that represents her character quite well. It's not as overpowered as the core set. If you wanted to include Black Widow into a themed setup, this would probably be the way to go. And more than anything, she's just a lot of fun to use because she keeps things moving. This set does have more than one Black Widow, and the second one is Yelena Belova. Her hero set is all about sending herself and others undercover and unleashing them from undercover as well. She is also S.H.I.E.L.D. affiliated. Her first common, Strike and Fade, is a covert card, 3 attack, and a cost of 2. Send this undercover. Good plans are like assassinations. It's all in the execution. So when I use this, I had some turns where I was able to send her undercover and unleash her from undercover multiple times. Doesn't look like much, but it is a very cheap card for 3 attack. The reason why it's so cheap is because even though you play it for 3 attack, she goes away to the victory pile, and you can't use her again for the rest of the game until you unleash her. But in combination with her other cards, like I said, you can bring her out multiple times in the same turn, play her for 3, play her for 3 more, that's 6, play her for 3 more, that's 9, and suddenly you have a ton of attack that can take most things down. So don't sleep on this card, especially if you're getting more Yelena cards. Her second common is Unveil Identity, an instinct card with 2 recruit and a cost of 3. Instinct, you may unleash one of your heroes from undercover. A carefully honed secret can be more deadly than a blade. This is very important. For example, if you picked up Strike and Fade, but don't pick up anything like Unveil Identity, Strike and Fade may be stuck in the victory pile, never to be played again. This is one that can bring that card back, or other cards from Undercover. So you'll see later she can send other cards Undercover, and then you can unleash them all at once to have a really good hand, kind of like teleporting them, but it takes a little bit more work. This works really well with Evasive, Acrobatics, Black Widow, because if you play Black Widow, you can dodge another card, you get to trigger Unveil Identity, and you can unleash a hero from Undercover. You also will get to dodge something with Evasive Acrobatics, and so you can get a really good hand just by playing those two cards together. But of course also works well with Strike and Fade, because you can bring Strike and Fade back out from Undercover, play it, goes back Undercover, you can play a second Unveil Identity, bring Strike and Fade back out, play Strike and Fade again. So she combos with her other common extremely well. If you're picking up one common, definitely pick up the other, but you're going to need some instinct to trigger this if you can't get more than one Unveil Identity. Onto her uncommon, Twilight Ops. It's the tech card, an attack of 3 and a cost of 6. By the way, look, instinct, tech, covert, covert, instinct, tech. Look at those same classes, they're interesting. So, this has dodge. When you dodge with this card, you may unleash one of your other heroes from Undercover. When you play this card, send it Undercover. Another very important utility card to bring cards out from Undercover, and then this one goes Undercover. So again, it's a 3 attack card like Strike and Fade that goes Undercover, so you're going to need to rely on other Twilight Ops or Unveil Identity to bring these back out. Her cards must work in tandem. There's no other cards in this set that can bring cards out from Undercover except for Red Guardian, who does it to himself, so you're going to need to really bank on Yelena to do that. For example, if you took Twilight Ops and Strike and Fade, eventually you're just going to have all the cards Undercover and you can never unleash them. So be very careful with your build. If you don't see Unveil Identity or you don't see a lot of Twilight Ops, you might be stuck, so keep that in mind. But again, this is her first card with dodge, which means you don't have to play this, and you can dodge it and unleash another hero. So if you have one Twilight Ops, a lot of stuff stuck in your Undercover, you might want to dodge it for a while just to keep unleashing stuff. I had a lot of fun playing Yelena's hero set. It relies on you remembering what's Undercover, so make sure you do that, but if you do, you can end up with some really good hands. Now, keep in mind it says you may unleash one of your other heroes from Undercover. You don't have to do that. That's something I struggled with my first couple of playthroughs, especially with her and Red Guardian. You do not have to unleash things from Undercover all at once. You can wait and time it for a big hit on the Mastermind. More helpful with Taskmaster and his Henchman, less helpful with the Indestructible Man. However, it does help by fighting multiple elite assassins in the city. You can get into the trap where you have one elite assassin defeated on one side, one on the other, and then neither side can fight the Mastermind yet because you've split them up. So if you strategically wait, leave the assassins in the city, and then unleash as much as you can on your turn with Yelena cards, you can take down 2 or 3 elite assassins at once and then hit the Mastermind right there. But a very fun and unique hero set. There's nobody quite like her in Legendary. And finally, Destroy the Red Room, Yelena Belova's rare. It is a tech card, 4 attack and a cost of 8. You may unleash one of your heroes from Undercover. You may send a hero from your discard pile Undercover. Sometimes your past goes up in smoke. Another very useful card. It's only 4 attack, but it's designed to bring other heroes back in. So again, you can unleash something, send it Undercover from your discard pile. Not only can you unleash a card from Undercover, which could be another Strike and Fade or a Twilight Ops, but you could send a hero from your discard pile Undercover, so a strategy could be to recruit a card into your discard pile, unleash something else, and then send the one in your discard pile Undercover. Then you could use another card like Unveil Identity or Twilight Ops to unleash that card and bring it out right away. So this is pretty cool. Imagine that you recruited Infiltrate the Conspiracy, Black Widow's rare. You could play Destroy the Red Room to send it Undercover immediately and then unleash it. So if you have that combo, you get another card right away. Also, it's a tech rare, so keep in mind if you're fighting Indestructible Man, if this is in the HQ and you can fight him, if you get the International Arms Dealer tactic, you get to gain a tech hero for free, which could be this card. So yeah, Yelena relies on her card interest synergy quite a bit, so be very careful with Yelena. If you split up her cards between different players or you don't recruit all of her cards, you might get stuck with a lot of cards stuck in the victory pile, but if you try to build a Yelena deck, you'll have a really great time bringing cards out from Undercover, building up some really great hands, kind of like, again, Teleport or Soaring Flight. You build up for the next turn, and you can wait as long as you want. Don't wait too long because you could fill up the city. So unlike other hero sets, this relies on careful timing and planning. How long do you want to leave for Undercover? When do you want to unleash her? What else do you want to unleash along with that? And what combos can you accomplish? It's a very deep strategy that experienced Legendary players are going to have a lot of fun with. Next up is Red Guardian, a hero set that has a bit of a learning curve. If you watch my first playthrough, it takes me a while to figure out exactly how he works, and it took me a while to remember that he has cards undercover that you can unleash, because he can unleash himself based on certain things you can do, so you got to remember that those are there. Anyway, he's an unaffiliated hero, no team affiliation. His first common is Sleeper Agent, a covert card with 2 recruit and a cost of 3. When recruited, and all his cards have when recruited, send this undercover, every single one. When you fight a villain, you may unleash this card from undercover. Covert, draw a card. That's exactly how it sounds. When you fight a villain in the city, you can take him from your victory pile and put him into your hand. That is how you unleash. And again, like I mentioned before, you got to remember that he's in there. One of my downfalls is that I did not remember that he was there, or just wasn't thinking about it. So that's an important key part of his set. Now, like Yelena, you could leave him in there and wait to unleash them all at once. For example, if you were trying to recruit an expensive rare, you could get 3 Sleeper Agents in your victory pile, and then you fight 1 villain on 1 turn. You could unleash all 3. That's 6 recruit right there, and you probably have enough to get a rare based on whatever else you have. And then once he's in your deck, he's got covert, draw a card. So if you do unleash all 3 and you don't have any other coverts, you at least get to draw 2 cards. So again, there's a common, there's 5 of these, so you could unleash them all at once if you wanted, depending on how urgent the city was to manage. This would be fun, I guess, for maybe a 3-player game where one hero is just building up all this Red Guardian, maybe some Yelena, and then everybody else is playing out the game, and you're just waiting to unleash everything all at once. Very unique hero set in that way. Again, Yelena can unleash herself and others, but Red Guardian only unleashes himself when you meet these conditions. So sometimes they go together and sometimes they don't. If you're building a Red Guardian deck and you take Strike and Fade, you got no way to unleash her because he's only going to care about himself. Next up is Magnetic Shield, another covert card, 2+ attack and a cost of 4. In a similar vein to Sleeper Agent, when recruited, send this undercover. When you recruit another covert hero, you may unleash this card from undercover. Covert, you get +2 attack. So like Sleeper Agent, you have a trigger to unleash this from undercover, and in this sense it's a recruit a covert hero, and then the effect here is covert, you get +2 attack, which is very strong. So when you see his rare, you'll see just how strong this is. But if you recruit just 1 covert hero, you can unleash as many magnetic shields as you want. Unleash 2, that's 8 attack right there. That is a ton. And this is where combining him with cards like Yelena's can be useful, because if you resend him undercover, you can unleash him all at once again. But just building these up and using this once is enough to clear a city or hit both Masterminds. Unleash him when he's convenient for you. But just like Sleeper Agent, you're going to have to remember that that option is available to you, so do not forget. Here's Red Guardian's uncommon and the only non-covert card in his set. Death was only a ruse. It is a strength card, 3 attack and a cost of 6. When recruited, send this undercover. When a Master Strike is completed or any player fights the Mastermind, you may unleash this card from undercover. Covert, you may send one of your other heroes undercover. So he's known for faking his death in the comics, so that's what this refers to. And then when the Mastermind does something, you can bring him back out. Surprise! This is his only card that can send other heroes undercover. So with this, he is able to send one of his other heroes undercover to bring them out later based on their trigger. This is a card that works very well, of course, with not only Yelena, but all the heroes that have Dark Memories, because there are not a lot of strength cards in this expansion. There's a few, and this is one of them. So this is a very important strength card you need for that +1 bonus for all the Dark Memories cards. The final 2 heroes in this set focus a lot on Dark Memories. I did have him against Indestructible Man, and it was really tough because the Master Strikes were played, and it's really hard to fight him, so he just stuck around in the victory pile for a long time until I was able to get those 2 Elite Assassins to take him out. Now, there are some Masterminds where you have to hit them more times than normal to win, like Mysterio, so you can just keep on bringing Red Guardian out, even if the Master Strikes are gone. Now notice that both the triggers, when a Master Strike is completed or any player fights the Mastermind, you may unleash this card from undercover. That can happen, either of those things, when it's not your turn. So you got to remember, if this happens on somebody else's turn, you may unleash him. By the way, unleashing, no matter when, is optional. So you can see how that learning curve kind of comes in to how you want to play him. But the combos are unreal when you get this going, and nothing helps that like his rare. Champion of the Winter Guard is a covert card, 4+ attack and a cost of 8. When recruited, send this undercover. When a Scheme Twist is completed, or you play your 3rd covert hero in a turn, you may unleash this card from undercover. And check this ramp out. Covert, you get +2 attack for each other covert hero you played this turn. So, if you go big into Red Guardian, there's 5 of each of the commons, and they're all covert. So let's say you had 4 of each. That's going to be 16 attack if you play Red Guardian after you play all of those cards. Now, how do you get all those cards into your hand? Well, you could wait and unleash them all at once if you fight a villain and recruit a covert card. You can bring them all out and then have a ridiculous turn. But again, you're going to have to remember to bring the covert card out. If you watch one of my setups, you'll see how important it is to remember that this is an option. But this is one of the most powerful cards in this entire expansion, just based on raw attack power that you can get. There's even a couple of other covert cards in this set, like Weave Web of Spies and Strike and Fade, that you can use with Champion of the Winter Guard. So if you're investing in Red Guardian, invest in Red Guardian and get the handle of Unleashing from Undercover when you can, because you won't regret it. And be prepared for some really big moves, yet another really unique way to play a hero in Legendary. Our fourth hero is White Tiger, a hero that people weren't sure why was included in this set when we found out very early on, but when you see the mechanics, it'll make sense. So she is a Marvel Knights hero, and because we've never gotten an expansion that is purely Marvel Knights heroes, it's nice to see them whenever they pop up. This first card is Dark Influence of the Hand. It is a range card, 0+ attack, and a cost of 3. She has dodge and dark memories, like one of my favorite cards, Widow's Bite. And then also, once this turn, you may fight the top card of the bystander stack as if it were a 3-attack Hand Ninja's Henchman villain with Fight. You get +1 recruit. Rescue this as a bystander. I really enjoy the cards that represent other cards from the core set, like Brainstorm's hero set, so she's going to do it too with the Hand Ninjas. And then, of course, I already mentioned how great of a combo Dodge and Dark Memories is. You can either dodge it if it's not going to give you that much attack, or you can play it if Dark Memories is really ramping up. Plus, it's a range card. There is no other range card in this expansion so far that is not a rare Black Widow, so it's good to have that class represented for Dark Memories. So this effect here is kind of like one of Super Skrull's focus effects, where you can turn attack into recruit. You do have to spend 3 attack to get 1 recruit, but you do get a bystander out of it, which might give you a special bystander effect, and that 1 recruit might be just what you need in order to get something good from the HQ. And her whole set is based around really building up Dark Memories, so that could get you a recruit for something that has a class you don't have to get into your discard pile for Dark Memories. Unfortunately, you couldn't do that on the same turn because the Dark Memories effect applies once you play her. But again, any card with dodge on it, it's kind of a no-brainer to pick up because it's not going to hurt you. You can discard it and get a brand new card. Her second common is Amulets of the Tiger God, a strength card with 2 recruit and a cost of 4. Reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, draw one of them that costs 0, and discard the rest. Murdered by Lady Bullseye and ensorcelled by the Hand, Angela Del Toro has finally seized her own destiny. Now, this is a card I KO'd often in the first couple of games I played because I wasn't quite sure how she worked. But in later games where I got to use more Dark Memories cards and White Tiger, it made more sense to me. So, first of all, it gives you 2 recruit, plus most of the time in the early game, if you draw 1 card that costs 0, you're going to get another S.H.I.E.L.D agent out of that, because you could take an officer and agent, but you might want to get the 3 recruit. So it's essentially a 3 recruit common, which is pretty useful. And then later on in the game, it can help you get Dark Memories. If you think about it, top 2 cards of your deck, most often the cards that cost not 0 are going to be non-gray, so you discard those, and that is going to buff up Dark Memories. Also, it's a strength card, and as you can see, there aren't that many strength cards. In fact, the only one we've seen so far is Red Guardian's Uncommon, so you're going to need strength cards to buff up Dark Memories to max it out at 5 if you want. So this can be a very useful card for that. I wouldn't necessarily pick it up if you're not going for a Dark Memories build. For example, if I'm going for something that's clearly just unleashing and sending undercover, it's not the best. But if you're using Dark Memories, it is a very, very good card. This is also great if you have something you want to get out of the way from the top of your deck. Like, let's say you're fighting Mephisto and you put a wound on top of your deck. You can draw that wound with Amulets of the Tiger God and just get it out of the way so that next turn you won't see it. Also, it just kind of goes through your deck a little faster too, if that's something you want. Love a good card with a nice weather effect in the back, and this does not disappoint. Camouflaged Huntress is her uncommon, a covert card with 3 attack and a cost of 5. Whenever you defeat a henchman this turn, you may KO one of your cards. With her FBI training and supernatural senses, she preys freely on the criminal element. You know I love a KO card because there's nothing better in a deck builder than thinning out the cards in the deck that you do not want, and this can do that. Plus, most of the time there's going to be a ton of henchmen in your villain deck. I can imagine for a solo game, this card won't be as good because there are fewer henchmen, so that's less KO power, but with 10 henchmen in a standard game, this can be pretty darn useful. Also, it gives you 3 attack on its own, not a ton for an uncommon card, but these can add up. Pretty tough for Taskmaster, by the way, because he will buff up the Henchman, making it harder for you to take them out, so it makes it less likely you'll be able to actually get this KO power, but early on, it should be pretty helpful. Plus, again, it's a covert for more Dark Memory. She doesn't have that yet, so she's got range, strength, and covert to buff that up. And finally, Shadowed Resurrection is her rare and instinct card, 3 attack and a cost of 8. Dark Memories, drawing that many cards instead of gaining attack. Now, I'm usually a big fan of rares that draw cards instead of getting a lot of attack, and this is no exception. If you built yourself a solid deck, this can be just as useful, if not more so. So this has a maximum card draw of 5 because there's only 5 classes that could be in your discard pile, but 5 card draws plus 3 attack is really good because let's say you have a rare that gives you 10 attack total. Drawing 5 cards could give you much more than 10 attack depending on what else you have. You have to be careful here because if you draw that many cards, depending on how many cards in your deck, that could force a reshuffle, causing any future card you play to not get a Dark Memories buff because if your discard pile is empty, no Dark Memories for you. However, if you still have plenty of cards in your deck, you can draw them all, maybe do some more dodging, more Dark Memories. So with a White Tiger deck, you want to get a ton of cards. So when this comes up, you can safely draw a bunch without having to run out of cards in your discard pile. And you gotta love this giant Spirit Tiger in the background, right? This is actually the second Spirit Tiger on a legendary card we've seen after Hoggoth in Doctor Strange's cards on the Vishanti. So bring on the Spirit Tigers, I love it. And that's it for White Tiger. We have one more hero set to go over, and that is the only Avengers hero in this expansion, Falcon and Winter Soldier. And here we are with Falcon and Winter Soldier. As you can see, they are divided cards, and I think they're one of my favorite divided cards in the game just based on how different their effects are and how you can change up your strategy as you play. Their first common is a Tune and a Tone. A Tune is a range card. A Tone is a strength card. A Tune gives you 3 recruit, and to play this side, you must discard a card. A Tone gives you 0+ attack and Dark Memories. Now, Falcon and Winter Soldier are wonderful for Dark Memories because with divided cards, they're both sides of the card unless you play it, and then you have to pick a side. So when these cards are in your discard pile, you get both classes for Dark Memories. So if you play a Tune to discard another Falcon and Winter Soldier card, that's going to probably give you 2 attack for Dark Memories. And as you'll see, the entire hero set has every single hero class, so if you get enough of these, you'll get a bonus of 5 Dark Memories attack almost every time. A Tune is reminiscent of Cyclops' card that does the same thing, gives you a bunch of recruit, 3 recruit in fact, but you have to discard a card to play it. Pretty easy for early game, right? Because that'll give you 3, maybe 6 recruit if you discard a trooper that you don't need early on, or discard an agent to net +2 recruit. But a Tone here is so useful later on in the game. Plus, like I mentioned, it's one of the very few strength cards in this game. So if you're building a Dark Memories deck with a Black Widow or White Tiger, you're going to want to get a Tone when you can for that precious strength bonus. Their second common is Relocate and Reload, Instinct and Tech respectively. Relocate gives 2+ attack, dodge, and Instinct you get +1 attack, and Reload gives 2 attack, and then Tech draw a card. Again, another great card for Dark Memories because discard this card and it gives you 2 classes, Instinct and Tech, the 2 classes that the other common does not give you. So have both in your discard pile, and that is a +4 bonus for Dark Memories, which is wonderful. This one's a little tricky because you do need class triggers for each side. However, Relocate does have dodge, which means that you can't dodge half a card, so you dodge the entire card from your hand if you do decide to dodge with Relocate. But a pretty easy evaluation for you. Do you want 3 attack or do you want to draw a card? If you do have both, of course, if you play a Relocate or Reload before this, you get to choose which side you play. Then if you have a second one, you get to pick if you want the Instinct or Tech trigger. Kind of a utility card in their set, but like I said before, a dodge card is never really a bad pickup. Not to mention that because it has 2 classes and dodge, if you have Dark Memories, just dodge Falcon right there and suddenly you have a bonus for Dark Memories. Moving on to New Wings and New Plan, one of my favorite cards from this expansion. So New Wings is Tech, New Plan is Covert. New Wings gives 0+ attack if you discarded any cards this turn, you get +4 attack, and then New Plan is simply draw 2 cards. So here's why this card is so great. First of all, with all the dodging in this expansion, including with the common we just looked at, you're going to trigger New Wings more often than not if you play it for 4+ attack. New Plan is simply draw 2 cards, which can help you get more cards that'll give you Dark Memories bonuses. So if you know you have more Dark Memories bonuses, you might get even more attack from New Wings. Let's say you draw 2 cards with Dark Memories, and each one gives you 3 attack. That's going to be +6 attack, giving you even more than New Wings could. Of course, New Plan can also give you more recruit or whatever else you have coming up. And then this card provides another great Dark Memories combo of Tech and Covert. So these classes, Tech and Covert, are probably the 2 you need the least when you're playing with all these heroes for Dark Memories. Memories because you get some from all these other cards. But still, if you're playing with Falcon and Winter Soldier or playing with a setup that's not from this expansion, 2 more classes for Dark Memories. And you're already playing a deck builder, so we know you love choices. So having choices within choices that you can bring out at just the right time is great. Also, this is partially a covert card, so when you recruit it, you can bring out Red Guardian. It all works together so well. And finally, the only non-divided card in this hero set is Captain America's Legacy. They're rare, a strength card, 2+ attack, and a cost of 7. You get +1 attack for each hero class you have, and then Avengers Dark Memories. This is an interesting one because it gives you +1 attack for each hero class you have. That means in your hand or in play. Then with the Avengers trigger, you get +1 attack for each class you have in your discard pile, which is Dark Memories. So what's interesting here is, let's say you have a lot of cards to dodge or get into your discard pile, or you want to do some recruits. You can play this card early if you have a lot of classes already out to get that bonus, or you could wait during your turn, and if you can do the superpower trigger, let's say you've dodged some stuff, recruited some stuff, then you can do Dark Memories instead to get the attack later on. So expect to play this either early or late in your turn. So this is kind of like a divided card, and this design is very clever because unless you have a lot of classes in your discard pile and in your possession, you're going to really only get impact from one of these like I mentioned. So it kind of functions like a divided card where one side gets +1 attack for each hero class and the other side is +1 attack for each hero class in your discard pile of Dark Memories. But as the title implies, this also does represent Captain America's hero sets where he gives you +1 attack for each color or hero class you have depending on which cap you're using. And as both of them have taken the mantle of Captain America, that is only appropriate. I think Falcon the Winter Soldier, it's hard to say which one of these is my favorite hero set because they're all so good, but definitely one of my top is Falcon and Winter Soldier set. And that is it for the heroes. So much to love here. Each one does something very different, yet uses similar mechanics to fit them into the same expansion. Like I said, Black Widow jumps around using dodge and Dark Memories. Yelena brings herself and other heroes under cover, brings them out at the right time, sometimes multiple times in a turn. Red Guardian does his own thing by sending himself under cover and unleashing himself when you meet the right conditions, and really ramping up that attack with his rare. White Tiger focuses on Dark Memories, but is a great utility hero by getting rid of some cards with KOing, drawing some cards, and also getting some recruit with the Hand Ninja effect. Also doing some top deck manipulation a little bit. And then Falcon and Winter Soldier is focused on that Dark Memories or some utility with drawing and getting some extra recruit at the beginning. So much to love, and these are really fun when you combine them all together. And I can't wait to find out how they function in the randomizer when I start mixing things up. But definitely worth a pickup of this set just on the heroes alone. But I also love the villains, but we're not done. There are 4 schemes that come with this, which is standard for a small box. Let's go ahead and take a look at all 4 schemes in Marvel Legendary Black Widow. First up, we have Trained Black Widows in the red room, and there's a pretty cool promo if you can get your hands on it, LPC 50 of this scheme as well. Set up 8 twists, -1 twist per player, add 8 shield officers to the villain deck. Special rules: officers in the villain deck and city are Black Widow Initiate villains with 3+ attack and Dark Memories. Fight. Gain this as an officer without Dark Memories, or send it under cover. Twist: a Black Widow Initiate enters the city from the officer stack. Play another card from the villain deck. Evil wins when there are 3 villains per player in the escape pile or the villain deck runs out. This is a scheme that I liked quite a bit. It's pretty fun to have the officers in the city and not have to gain them when you fight them, unlike when you're fighting Maria Hill. By the way, if you train Black Widows in the red room with Maria Hill as the mastermind, you're going to have a lot of officers, which has upsides and downsides. The downside being more officers in the city, but the upside being you can send them undercover, but that's besides the point. Another good thing about this scheme, it's not a timer scheme, so you can you play all the twists and still survive. Now, the twist plays extra cards from the villain deck, but because there's 8 extra officers in the villain deck, that's going to even them out. This can be a useful one for fighting the elite assassins, because since you do play those extra cards from the villain deck, you might bury the officers in there. Because you do play those extra cards in the villain deck, there's a good chance the elite assassins could come out a little earlier to take down Indestructible Man. Unfortunately, since these villains do have Dark Memories, it's going to not work very well if you have Dark Memories, because they're just going to cancel out the bonus that you get. However, if you do that, they still only have 3 attacks, so it shouldn't be too hard to play 1 card or 2 cards for 3 attack, cancel out their Dark Memories, and take them down. So not too stressful of a scheme, but still a fun one to see how you handle the officers in the city. If you do choose to gain it, it's not either player. You have to gain it on your own, which could be useful sometimes. This is a really fun one to play with these special shield officers from S.H.I.E.L.D. because they all have a hero class and can buff up Dark Memories. For better or worse, they can buff up the villain's Dark Memories, but they can also buff up yours. Another great thing about it, though, is that some of them have shield triggers, which work great with 2 heroes, Black Widow and Yelena, from this set because they're shield as well. So try this, especially if you have the S.H.I.E.L.D expansion, and use the special officers and see how it goes for you. Next up is Corrupt the Spy Agencies. This is a timer scheme, but it's a pretty fun one. Set up 7 twists, twist 1 to 6. Each player sends one of their non-gray heroes undercover. Then each player may unleash a hero from undercover with a lower cost than the one that player just sent undercover. Twist 7, evil wins. What I found happening a lot when playing this one is I would send something that had a low enough cost that nothing would unleash from undercover. However, a couple of times I purposefully sent something with a higher cost undercover just to unleash something that I really wanted to get back out. For example, Strike and Fade only has a cost of 2. So once I sent a card that gave me Recruit, I think either White Tiger or Unveil Identity, that was more expensive than Strike and Fade can come back out and you can play it again, send it undercover again. So with some heroes from this set that can send things undercover or actually release other things from undercover is helpful, because even if Corrupt the Spy Agencies does that, you can unleash them later. Also very good, of course, for Red Guardian, because you can send him undercover, and it's not really a big deal because you can unleash him just by meeting one of his criteria. This will be a tougher one in other sets because chances are some cards you will never be able to unleash because you can never send a hero undercover. That's going to be more expensive than those cards. Some uncommons and rares come to mind. But I noticed that the twist doesn't hurt you that much because you do bring something back from undercover, and it says may, so you don't have to bring something back from undercover. Just try to win quickly before the twist 7 happens. A tough one with Indestructible Man because he's rough with timer schemes, because you're waiting for Elite Assassins or twist to come out, and one could happen before the other. I enjoyed all these schemes, but I think this one is my personal favorite from this expansion, Frame Heroes for Murder. Setup: 7 twists, 6 heroes. Twist 1 to 6, stack a card from the HQ next to the scheme as incriminating evidence that has a different cost than any card already in that stack. Twist 7, add any card from the HQ to the incriminating evidence. Evil wins when there are 5 pieces of incriminating evidence. I'm a sucker for schemes that care about HQ management, and this is no exception. I did pretty well with this scheme because I let the scheme capture a 3, 4, and 5 cost, which is was the most common of the heroes that I was using. And then every time a 6 cost came in or a rare, I tried to get it very quickly so the scheme would not steal one. If the scheme steals a 7 or 8 cost rare, that's going to be pretty tricky because you won't see a lot of those, and you could easily get 4 or 5 pieces of incriminating evidence. I think once you get to 3 or 4, it's going to be pretty manageable, but be careful because if you let one other cost in the HQ stick around, you risk losing. Now keep in mind that twist 7 just puts one into the incriminating evidence pile, so if you fail 4 out of 6 of the first 6 twists, you will lose on twist 7 because that will be 5 pieces of incriminating evidence. So don't fail more than half of them, and then you'll have some extra time to try and defeat the Mastermind. This gives some vibes from the Civil War expansion by using costs and using different heroes and representing, not imprisoning in this case, but almost, you're framing them. This is another fun one to use with lawyer heroes like She-Hulk or Daredevil, or investigative heroes like Jessica Jones, or heroes from the Messiah complex. And finally, we have Sniper Rifle Assassins, which really lives up to its name. My experience was that this was the most unforgiving and toughest scheme in this expansion, but that said, it is still a lot of fun because it does exactly what it says it does. Setup: 11 twists minus 1 twist per player. Twist: each player must dodge with a hero from their hand, revealing the card they drew. KO each non-gray hero drawn this way. Evil wins when there are 4 non-gray heroes per player in the KO pile. So get that straight for a second. You dodge a hero, and then you draw one or reveal one, because that's what you do when you dodge, and that hero gets KO'd if it's non-gray. So there's really no way you can set this up unless you can set up top of your deck before a twist might occur, which is very hard to do. And let's say you're playing 2 players, all you got to do is both sides have to fail 4 twists, and that's the game right there, not including if you had anything escape and you had KOs that way. So this one is very, very tough. It's not a timer scheme, but you'll probably lose before you get to all 11 twists. This is more rough in the late game too, because what you want to do in Legendary, in any deck builder, is you want to thin your deck by getting rid of the gray cards, and you want to get rid of wounds. However, if you do that, it's a higher chance the snipers are going to hit their target and KO something. And again, you don't need that many to lose when all things are considered based on how many twists there are. Oh, by the way, there's only 9 twists for a 2-player game because you subtract 1 twist per player. But for a solo game, it is 10 twists. and then you only need 4 non-graves in the KO pile to lose, and that is very difficult. So the strategy I was trying to accomplish when playing this, if you can thin your deck so you only have 6 cards, with one of those cards being a gray card, what you could do is succeed every time by dodging that gray, drawing that gray back again for the dodge, and then you won't be able to KO that. But that's really, really hard to do. So probably what you want to do when you're playing Sniper Rifle Assassins is just beat the Mastermind quickly. There's not much of another way around it, but very, very tough. By the way, that scheme does a really great job of representing snipers on a rooftop somewhere where you can't see them. And the panic you get from dodging something and KOing something that's a surprise is probably very fitting for that scheme. And that is it for Marvel Legendary Black Widow. That's every single card. Another slam dunk for the series of Marvel Legendary games. I had a ton of fun playing this one. If you're thinking about it, I highly recommend you pick this one up. Don't really have a lot of bad things to say about it. I think my favorite cards from this set are probably the Taskmaster Mastermind, probably Widow's Bite Black Widow, and probably Falcon and the Winter Soldier's hero set. If there's something else that you really enjoy about Marvel Legendary Black Widow, go ahead and leave a comment and let me know what your favorite part of this expansion is. Thanks again to Upper Deck for sending me this expansion, as well as the scheme promo. Was very kind of you guys. If you'd like to see me play through every Mastermind and scheme in this set, you can check those out here. And make sure to subscribe to Bagel Top Games for all things Marvel Legendary. Until next time, take care, everybody.